Hi, today we have something interesting, and as you can see, it's all been taken apart, and this was done primarily out of curiosity. So this is a disassembled music and sound model DMCBT. BT stands for Bluetooth, and the front panel assembly looks like this. So brief history. Back when the DMC series of intercom systems came out, they had an accessory in-wall 6-disc CD changer. Same size panel as this, only with a CD cartridge that popped out and all that junk. The CD assemblies were not made by Music and Sound. They were made by, I think, Alpine, who makes a lot of automobile CD changers at the time. And that went along pretty well, although it was super expensive. But at some point, CDs sort of fell out of favor, and I think Alpine stopped making the CD changer that was adapted for Music and Sound's design, and they needed to come up with something else. And they came up with this as a replacement, which is a Bluetooth receiver, and it ties into the master station, which maybe we'll see at the end. This was sent in by a customer with a couple DMC master stations to be repaired, and he said this wasn't working correctly. The problem that I found was primarily that the transformer that powers this had a blown fuse, and I replaced that and hooked all this up, and it all worked fine. Because I have never actually seen one of these before, I've only ever seen a catalog sheet on them, I thought I would do a quick video. And of course, to make a video properly, you got to take things apart, because that's how you learn about them, and this is a good opportunity to do that. And as you can see, we're well into the taking things apart part. I'm going to talk about each things a little bit, and then I'm going to put it back together and show how that kind of goes. And at the end, fingers crossed, we'll hook it up to a DMC master station, and I think it should work. The way this works is you have controls here, and there's an interface board on the back, and there's a cable that comes off this, and it plugs into a connection on the DMC master station, so you can control this with these buttons, but also with the master station. I think there's this little cutout right here, which this little drawer slides in and out of. And this is where this is kind of one of those grippy sort of pad things on it. And this is where you would sit your phone. It also turns out, which I didn't see when I played with it before, there's also a USB jack here, and there's also an audio input jack, a 3.5 millimeter jack on the side of the drawer also. And inside the drawer is this circuit board. So of course I have to take all this apart to find out what it's all about. And it turns out that contrary to what I thought, most of this was actually, I think, designed by Music and Sound or by their parent company, Linear, because it says Linear LLC on it. It's dated 2010. That's how long ago this was designed. One of the things I found interesting on this is that you have the circuit board here, and on this side of the circuit board, you don't have much of anything at all. Here in this close-up, you can see the majority of this board is unpopulated. All of these little shiny solder points here are where components could be placed, but they're not. They're all missing, and I think I know why. Here's the audio input jack. This is the Bluetooth jack here, or not Bluetooth jack, this is the USB jack here. The only place you have components is down here, and there is this cable that plugs into the interface board. There is this group of components here. This little integrated circuit here, I googled the numbers that are printed on it and really couldn't find out what it was, but I believe all this is the regulated 5-volt power supply for the USB jack. I think that's all that this is. But I did find something else that was interesting. There is this portion of the board right here. It's labeled as J1, and this is obviously a multi-pin connector that would have been soldered on here. And if you follow the traces on this side, I don't know if there's anything, mostly ground plane on that side. If you follow all the traces, they take you over here, which take you over here, and around here, and this, and so on and so on. So this has to do with all the unpopulated area. If you look inside the drawer right here, there's a recessed portion in the plastic molding that has a cutout in it for what would be an interconnect jack. And if you look down here on the labeling on the board, down here, it says ground. These are like test points. You have ground, and then it says iPod detect. So I think that this was possibly originally designed for a connector for an iPhone or an iPod. Well, it says iPod, so maybe it's more iPod also based on the year. So maybe for an iPod connector, and I'm not an Apple guy, so I don't know. Is an iPod connector the same as an iPhone connector back in the day? I don't really know. Anyway, and this pocket here, which if you took the grippy pad off, there would be a recess where you could sit something and it would plug into the connector. And I think this was designed originally so you could use an iPod with it and pop out the drawer and sit the iPod down into it, and it would make the connections and you could play your music from the iPod through the intercom system, which would have been cool. The problem with that always would be that since I think iPods and iPhones have proprietary connectors, they're not like anybody else's in the world. And I know at some point on iPhones, Apple changed the connector from what it was to something different. So you have a dedicated design for a dedicated connection, and that manufacturer changes it, then all of these become obsolete, or you have to be able to supply some kind of adapter something or another or like that. So designing in proprietary connectors is never really a good thing. All right, so let's do a little reassembly before we forget how it goes. That's the risk when you take something apart for the very first time, is sometimes you forget how it goes back together, and that's never a good thing. So that goes like that, and then fortunately it seems like they only used a couple kinds of screws to hold all this together, and hopefully when we get done it'll still all work, because the owner of it was surprised that I was able to get it to work, because he said it hadn't worked in a long time. He did ask me about, because the fundamental problem with it was that the fuse in the transformer had blown, and he asked me why was that, and I told him I don't know, because I didn't find any problems anywhere with it that would have caused the fuse to blow. However, it's not all that uncommon for, this goes this way. It's not that uncommon in my experience for music and sound. No, it goes this way. It's not that uncommon for music and sound, for fuses in music and sound intercoms to suddenly and unexpectedly fail. That's how it goes. See, it's got these little tabs that stick out in the slots on the bottom, so it only opens up so far. And then you got to put the back on, which sits in here like this. This is a very sort of typical, goes this way, music and sound design, where you've got a lot of folded sheet metal with very little inside of it. And part of the reason I think it's like that, we need to magnetize our screwdriver a little bit. Since this was designed to take the place of the original 6-disc CD changer, it had to fit into the same wall housing, and it uses the same transformer, which is good. So now we're going to put this. So this is the panel, the chassis, the front panel of the chassis. It's got the control buttons on it, which are cool, and I'll show you why after. And then there's a little power supply and interface board here that has cables that connect this unit and what's on the back of this unit, which we'll talk about in a second, connects it all together. And then it has audio outputs here that have audio. We need audio cables to plug into the DMC master station and so on and so on. So let me get this put back together and I'll be right back. So I got it all back together. This big sheet metal box, you saw how small the board and everything was. This big sheet metal box is primarily just air. It's empty inside. But as I was saying before, they had to make this fit the wall housing that was there. And I think to give it some substance and strength and whatever, they made it this way. But it's sort of typical music and sound construction. A lot of folded sheet metal all screwed together. Makes it pretty sturdy, which is good. And then these are the two cables that come off the board that I showed you on the back of the chassis on the control board here, and they plug into sockets on the back of the faceplate. So this is really like an interface card, and it actually says this was designed by Nortec. Nortec is the parent company that owns Music and Sound and Lanier, or they used to. They don't own them anymore. There is no real model number. It could be an STD3. That's kind of weird. There isn't a lot on this and there is, I should say, in the grill here, this is a little speaker. And I'm not sure why there's a speaker there, because it would tie into the intercom system. And also there's these little ports here and here, which I suppose I could take this out real quick. Why don't we do that and see? Because this may be the only time that I ever get to actually see one of these, being rare as they are. I think they only made these for maybe 3 or 4 years. And I would guess that they would have been moderately expensive. Oh, so these are actually little condenser microphones. I'm not sure why. I haven't been able to find an owner's or an operating guide for one of these. I'm going to look again. This one looks like it was manufactured the 46th week of 2015. So it's about 10 years old. Got a little speaker here and 2 microphones. So if you have microphones, that sort of implies that it can do some kind of recording or pick up sound for whatever reason. The other thing that's really interesting on here is right here, this little board. This is the Bluetooth module. This was made by a company called Roving Networks, and it's a model RN52 Bluetooth audio module. There's a lot of information about that online. It was a very commonly made Bluetooth module back in the day. Could be used for all kinds of things. It was actually sold on like SparkFund and things like that, so people could incorporate it into their own designs and all those good things, which is what you would do. You wouldn't necessarily, Bluetooth is a fairly well established design, and you wouldn't necessarily go through the effort to design your own Bluetooth module in-house when you can buy one already ready to go. In fact, let's take a quick look and see if we can find out really quick. So the description of it is an RN52 audio Bluetooth breakout board, Bluetooth audio module from Roving Network, broken out on an easy to use printed circuit board, allows you to send stereo audio over a wireless Bluetooth connection. The module has an embedded DSP digital signal processor that handles the audio stream entering and exiting the module, converting the digital wireless signal into audio and vice versa. The module is easy to configure with both ASCII commands and GPIO. It can function as a standalone module or can be incorporated with a microprocessor to create the ultimate wireless audio experience. And that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants the ultimate wireless audio experience. So it can send and receive, which is kind of nice. Oh, and here's a picture of it I'm looking at on my screen. You can't see it. It's exactly like the one in here. Exactly. Gives you all the necessary information, shows you how to set it up on a breadboard for testing, all these other good things. However, it doesn't have a price. Here you go. So in single quantities, it looks like the street price ranges somewhere between $36 and $65. But if you're a big manufacturer like Music and Sound or Nortec or Lanier or whoever it was that actually made all of this, you're not paying anywhere near $36 for it, because you're going to call them up and say, I want to buy some of your Bluetooth modules. And they'll go, great, how many do you want to buy? And then you say, well, you know, we're thinking about 10,000. And then all of a sudden the price goes way down. So that's what that is. These cables plug into connectors on the back of this board. And nicely, the connectors are each a different size. So you can't really do it wrong. So there's that. And then this, I tuck the cables back into the slot so they don't foul the buttons. And that pops on like that. And there's our unit all put back together. So when you go to use it, I'm going to hook this up. When you go to use it, you push the drawer and it pops open. You pull it out and you sit your phone right here and it pairs up and does the Bluetoothy thing. It would have been cool. And what I thought it was going to be originally when I first unboxed all of this, I thought there would have been like an eject button or something, and you would push it and the drawer would go and open out. But it doesn't do that, because that would add a whole nother layer of complexity. You need a motor and gears and a motor controller and all these other kind of things. And obviously they didn't want to do that. So let me get this whole thing set up and let's see if it still works. We've got it set up. So I've got it connected to, this is a DMC1 master station, also sent in by the customer that owned this. They're kind of stacked this way on the workbench because the interconnect cable, this one between the two units, is fairly short, and I didn't want to try to balance one on top of the other because that wouldn't have been good. This is powered up by its own transformer. This is powered up by its own transformer. I have paired it up with my shop phone. This is an old phone. If you have old phones, hang on to them. They come in handy sometimes. I use this one here in the shop, and I noticed that when I paired it, let me go back here. I don't use this one. This one's old. When you go to Bluetooth, it shows as Nortec DMC Intercom connected for phone calls and media audio. I also, let's go back to this, and we'll do it the proper way. We'll set it right there. I did find an owner's manual for it online, which was actually easier than I would have thought. It is a whopping 10 pages long, which seems like an awful lot. You got the cover, you got the warnings, you got the table of contents, you have the introduction. The DMC is an intercom and sound system designed for today's home. Its compact size and modern, elegant look complement any decor. And here it shows how it would be mounted in the wall combination wall housing. Makes it look pretty jazzy. You have to remember, when this came out in the early 2000s, this was like the Jetsons. The DMCBT player. Your intercom system is equipped with a model DMCBT Bluetooth player mounted under the master station, which expands the audio capabilities of the system. With the Bluetooth player installed, the system can play from popular mobile phones and music devices using wireless Bluetooth technology. The Bluetooth player can stream music or other audio to the intercom system two ways, wireless or wired. Up to 8 wireless Bluetooth capable mobile devices can be paired with the Bluetooth player. The maximum usable distance from a Bluetooth mobile device to the player is about 35 feet, which is about right. A mobile device or digital audio player can be directly coupled to the Bluetooth player's audio input jack. That's over here on the side that I showed you. Speakerphone. A special feature of the Bluetooth player is a built-in speakerphone that can be used if a telephone call is received by the Bluetooth connected mobile phone device. That's why it has a speaker and 2 microphones, because if you get a phone call on your phone while you're playing Bluetooth, you can talk over the speakers and hear and all that without having to pick up the phone. So that's pretty good. Mini slide out shelf, USB charging port on the side, and audio input jack on the side. And here they show a picture of that with the phone laying on the little drawer. And then you have device pairing. All of this in today's world we all understand, because it is now 2024. So we're all used to how Bluetooth works, Bluetooth operation, blah, 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 blah. I will post a copy of this on our website. So if you need one, you can go there and download it and print it out or read it or whatever you want to do with it. Anyway, let's get to the heart of the matter. This, the Bluetooth receiver, is connected to the CD inputs on the back of the DMC1 because that's what it says to do. And that would be the best, most compatible choice. And I'm simply going to play a podcast.
ETG@twit.tv, video, voicemail. I saw somebody send John a very long video, John.
Oh, a very long, wait, hold on. A very
So,
long video?
Bluetooth here, plays through the speaker here. Look, all the buttons light up. Now they're fancy color. We got blue and we got green, and we can
Thank you. Enact it on that network, and it works great still.
lower the, oh, it's previous track, next track, volume up and down.
Connected to my house.
There's no tracks on what we're listening to, so you know, music or phone, a button for pairing, little Bluetooth symbol, on and off. Very simple. Seems to work well. It was pretty pricey. I couldn't find a price list on it anywhere, but if I recall correctly, we should stop this now.
Limit the performance.
Okay. It was in the neighborhood of the like $468, something like that. It was pretty pricey for what it was, but it is sort of a proprietary piece of equipment that fits in the opening you already have. So I guess it's like, what are you going to do? That's sort of a rough and brief impromptu look at a Music and Sound DMCBT Bluetooth receiver and transmitter, because you can talk on your phone back and forth, so that's all cool. It seems to work fine, and I think the guy will be happy that it works again. Hope you found this interesting, and perhaps for someone it will be helpful. If it is, give it a thumbs up on YouTube because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications. And every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.